Well, it became official yesterday. Donald Trump is now the third president in U.S. history to be impeached. Okay. House voted. There was a clear win. They voted yes to impeach. Now moves over to the Senate. Okay. But there was some backlash over Tulsi Gabbard for voting present. Okay, instead of a yes or no on whether or not, to go forward or to I guess, finalize the impeachment, we'll say, or we're going to pass the impeachment and move it on over to the Senate, okay, or, for them to look at convicting and removing from office, okay? So she voted present, and there's huge backlash coming out at her over this. People saying, okay, Tulsi, the heck's wrong with you? You're a Democrat, right? Democrats wanted this impeachment inquiry to be done, right? And that's actually one thing that I'm going to bring up here is Tulsi Gabbard was a holdout about even pursuing impeachment inquiry for a long time. And I completely agreed with why she was doing that. The criticism that I have of her that I feel like opened the door to all of this is the fact that while the establishment was pressuring her to support the impeachment inquiry, she did not cave immediately, and she held out, but then eventually she did say, okay, yes, after this whole Ukraine thing came out or whatever, more details came out on that. She's like, okay, yeah, let's pursue an inquiry. You jumped in bed with the snakes as soon as you did that, okay? You felt what you said in the beginning, that it was too divisive. Now, what came out about the Ukraine thing, the Republicans were able to push back very easily and say, look at this transcript. Trump released the transcript, okay? And while you may be able to infer that that might be what he meant, the problem with the Democrats' whole argument on this impeachment argument in the first place about the quid pro quo holding up of aid, if that's the case, then why did the investigation into Joe Biden, because that's what they're saying, he threatened to withhold aid for a quid pro quo reason. Basically, you won't get the money if you don't do what I want to help me politically, and that's investigate a political opponent. Okay? And they also say that he threatened to not meet with the man. Okay, well, he met with the man, they got their aid, and there's no investigation into Joe Biden. What? How are we even still talking about this? He released the transcript. There's no clear language where he says you have to do this in order for this to happen. Okay? The only thing that they've got is you can infer that's what he meant. You can infer that's what he meant. Okay? So we got to infer what the man meant. Yet what you claim he meant didn't happen. It just did not happen. Now, am I trying to sit here and say that I'm going to, be the Trump defender? No. I think the evidence just speaks for itself. You don't have clear enough evidence, okay? And the Republicans, and I know a lot of people are trying to go back to the Clinton impeachment, right? So basically, what we've got from testimony from the people in Congress, the Republicans have been able to knock 90% of it down. Jim Jordan and whatnot. When people like that are able to just smack their testimonies down so easily, I've shown clips of it. You've got that Ambassador Taylor talking about information he got from Gordon Sondland that went through 5 or 6 people in a game of telephone before it got to him. Has anyone ever played telephone? If you have, you know exactly how this works. It starts here. You say it to this person. By the time it reaches you, it's nothing like what the original person said. So you're relying on a case of hearsay that passed through 5 people, roughly. And hearsay from one person to another isn't admissible in a court of law. Yet we're going to take hearsay that went through 5 or 6 people and use that as evidence. And again, we're inferring what he meant from a phone call. If you're going to draw a connection there to Bill Clinton, nobody inferred what happened with Monica Lewinsky. Okay? Now, I still say that, I think the Republicans, were definitely grabbing at straws there even back in the 90s. They just didn't want Clinton in office, trying to stand on the high morals, banner. Okay? But nonetheless, no one inferred anything about Clinton. You're only able to infer what went on here. And so there's really no clear grounds in their argument, even the quid pro quo thing. If you want to say, even if we play devil's advocate for you and say, okay, there's definitely some quid pro quo involved there. Okay? If that's the case, you've got to hold Joe Biden just as accountable. This man should not even be eligible to run for president right now. When someone acting as the vice president of the United States goes to a foreign country and tells them we're going to withhold aid to you if you don't fire your top prosecutor, who, oh, by the way, just so happens to possibly be starting an investigation into a gas company that my son, who has no gas experience, sits on the board of. If you're going to hold Trump accountable to the quid pro quo, you got to do the same thing to Joe Biden. Okay? And that's why this thing does not stick. It doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold water. And that's why, in my opinion, Tulsi Gabbard should have never even jumped on the bandwagon. Because this is nothing but hypocritical bullshit from the Democratic establishment and from the DNC. That's all it is. That's all it is. And it's doing not one thing to all the Democrats who support it. With their base, with their diehard, left, liberal, progressive base, it may be doing some good because it looks like, oh, we're trying to do something about getting rid of Trump. But to honest Americans who don't just see through the red lens of hate Trump, who are looking at the actual facts here and not just filtering the facts with their disdain of Donald Trump, you then see this is awful murky water. There's no clear evidence to what you're trying to do that wouldn't also be implicating other people. So you then ask the question, well, why don't you go after him on something else? Why don't you go after him on things that mean something? Why don't you go after him on emoluments? Why don't you go after him on, campaign finance violations? Why are you not focusing on things like that? Well, what did we just find out that I covered yesterday? That there's people from the UAE that have now been indicted for campaign finance violations because the Crown Prince of the United Arab Emirates were trying to bypass campaign finance laws to get money into the Clinton campaign and her Democratic allies. And when she lost the election, because by the way, two of the people who were doing the dirty work here trying to funnel that money in under the radar, okay, were at the Clinton election night party, okay? When they couldn't get it done to her, all of a sudden after she lost, they start funneling the money over to Donald Trump, sponsoring his, inauguration day or whatever you want to call it, okay? Start funneling money over to that, start funneling money over to the RNC and the Republicans. So you literally had a foreign government just pumping and pumping and pumping money into both political parties. Pure corruption. Pure corruption. And by the way, one of the people who's doing this work, meeting with Bill Clinton, and so on and so forth, this guy has a charge on his record from the 1980s of being caught with child pornography. Okay? That's who we're talking about here. So they can't go after Donald Trump on things like that because they're guilty of the same things. So they go after him on this BS reason that they don't have the clear evidence to support what they're doing. Okay? So, in my opinion, I think Tulsi Gabbard was very principled in the truth to do what she did. You can agree with me or disagree with me about that. Okay? But she did what she thought was right. We should not be using things like the impeachment process to remove a president just because we don't like the president. Because in all honesty, if that could be done, Bush should have definitely been impeached many, many years ago. Not only just because many Americans hated that dumbass, but also because He was going around the world committing war crimes. And it caused the death of so many innocent people. Okay? So he should have been impeached. Obama should have been impeached because he was killing innocent people as well. Look what was released, by Chelsea Manning. The whole double tap thing took us from 2 conflicts into 7. Obama should have been impeached. That didn't happen. Okay? You can't just go around waving impeachment power just to remove a president just because you don't like him. And I get there's plenty of people that don't like Donald Trump, but you've got to come at him with something that actually means something. Okay? That being said, TYT made a video, okay, talking about what is wrong with Tulsi Gabbard for what she did. I'm going to play the video. We're just going to go straight through it. I'll give my reaction after it's done.
Tulsi Gabbard has decided to avoid the impeachment vote today. She is not present while Democratic and Republican lawmakers are debating and voting on articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. Now, she has spoken to ABC News and she wants to go in a different direction. Here's what she said. I'm taking this time for myself to be able to review everything that's happened, all the information that's been put forward, and just all the factors that go into really trying to figure out what is the best action to take for our country and for democracy. It's not a simple or easy decision to make. She also said,
wrong. It's the easiest decision in the world.
Well, I
what
agree
the
with
hell
you.
are you doing? Okay, anyway.
Let me give you more. She also said, I think it's really important that every member of Congress cast their vote based on what's in the best interest of the country rather than based on political implications.
So Tulsi, you really think Donald Trump maybe has the best interest of the country and that maybe in that call he didn't ask for a political favor to investigate his political rival? You really think that? You can't possibly think that. So what the hell's wrong with Tulsi Gabbard? So all the people pretending that Tulsi Gabbard's a progressive, I guess we're done with that, right? So look, I have not been this tough on Representative Gabbard up until now. Why? Because in Congress, she generally 90% of the time votes with progressives, oftentimes very progressive, and is wonderfully against war, okay? Not all war, but wars of aggression and the ones that she's opposed to, I'm opposed to, okay? But now, when you come out and you're like, well, I don't know, maybe Donald Trump didn't do it. What the hell is that? No, that means
I'll tell you why
you have some other motive, but it isn't. You're playing some sort of political game that is not logical and it is not fact-based. And I'm not sure I care about your intentions, but no honest person that's a Democrat running against Donald Trump thinks he didn't do it.
So I have a theory behind why she's doing this, and it's really based on polling numbers. So we'll get to that in just a second, but I think it's important to mention that rather than vote in favor of impeaching Donald Trump, she has decided to introduce a resolution to censure Trump instead.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo.
And so look, obviously I disagree with that. I think that there is an abundance of evidence to show that Donald Trump coerced a foreign government to meddle in our elections and announce an investigation into Joe Biden. That's just plain and simple. I mean, how many ambassadors and governmental officials do you need to testify against him? Has she been paying attention? I don't know, maybe she has. But here's what I think is.
Okay, hold on, before you get to your guess as to why. Look, there's 5 clear crimes. I've said it 1,000 times. 2 campaign finance violations, 2 obstruction charges, and then you've got the extortion, where I'm going to hold up your funds unless you help my political campaign. So this is not a thing you censure someone over, okay? I would like to introduce a resolution beseeching the president to please stop committing half a dozen crimes. No, it's not beseeching, it's not censuring. You have to take action and impeach him so that you set a precedent that the president is not above the law. So I don't, look guys, and I'm not helping my cause by alienating some Democrats who love Tulsi Gabbard. But I'll tell you, if you're in that camp, I explain this one. Like what, really? Now, in order to explain this one, Tulsi Gabbard is going to get you to defend Donald Trump. That's insanity.
So look, this is what my theory is. And this actually gave me a lot of clarity because it was frustrating to have so many examples of her doing things that go against what progressives fundamentally believe, including voting in favor of the vote to condemn BDS protesters, right? Like why would anyone in the progressive camp be in favor of that resolution to condemn protesters who just want to hold the Israeli government accountable? Okay. But here's the fact of the matter. Most of her supporters aren't progressive. Okay, so polling actually indicates that the supporters that she does have are mostly male and they're mostly conservative and voted for Donald Trump. So let's go to those figures. This is from 538. So her supporters are more likely to have backed President Trump in 2016, hold conservative views, or identify as Republican compared to voters backing the other candidates. An early November poll from The Economist YouGov found that 24% of Democratic primary voters who voted for Trump in 2016 backed Gabbard. By comparison, 12% of these voters backed Senator Elizabeth Warren, 11% backed Biden, and 10% backed Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I think that's relevant. I think that might be an influencing factor.
So I know there are real progressives who support Tulsi Gabbard, but now are you really, I mean, are you gonna still be a progressive and now turn around and defend Donald Trump and say, oh, no, we should only do a slap on the wrist, but we gotta wait till he commits 6, 7, 8 crimes before we do anything more than a censure? Bizarre, absolutely bizarre. And apparently, yes, a lot of her voters are inclined towards the Republicans. Is that a really smart strategy in a Democratic primary? So, gee, I wonder why you're polling at 1% or lower when you're trying to win over Republican voters in a Democratic primary where Republican voters cannot vote.
I don't really think she's seriously running anymore. She claimed that she wants to sit out this next debate.
No, I know. Like now, you had a theory. Now I have a theory. Look, first of all, she was taking out a bunch of Democrats, which I liked. She was right about those. See, I'm principled. When she's right, I give her credit. I give her a lot of credit. Okay, when she's wrong, I call her out for being wrong. I do that with every candidate. So, sure, aggressive questioning of Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg were correct in the debates. Okay, but it looked like I thought she was angling to maybe be Biden's VP. Hey, a person of color, a woman, veteran, et cetera, et cetera. Now she's defending Trump. I think she gets it. No, the establishment hates her for different reasons than we have an issue with her. She's not going to get Biden's VP pick. I think she's now moved to a third rail, if you will, a third track where she's like, no, if Trump wins the election, I go serve in his cabinet. You remember, she's not running for office anymore. So why is she in a Democratic primary trying to help Donald Trump? If you did any kind of logical politics, that makes no sense at all, except I'm now on a prominent stage. And so I set up a situation where I go, oh, I'm so disgruntled with the Democratic Party. And I thought they were so unfair to Donald Trump. Remember, she met with Donald Trump when he won the first time and was being considered for a cabinet position by Trump and Bannon. That was one of the first questions I asked her in an interview that we did. And people were like, oh, that's so unfair to ask her about Steve Bannon liking her. Well, apparently it's relevant because here we are now, her seemingly being one of the very few Democrats left in the country in some ways defending Donald Trump. Thanks for watching the Untwisted. Really appreciate it.
First of all, the whole thing about there's clear evidence for the impeachment that Trump coerced. How many, and what did Anna Kasparian say? How many more government ambassadors and whatnot do we need to hear from? Okay, I believe I just broke that down leading up to that clip. So I'm not going to go over that again. Move on from there. Jank went over, the 2 campaign finance violations, the blah, 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 and then the extortion, basically, we're not going to give you money unless you, do something for me. Okay, again, the campaign finance violations. If you do it to one, you've got to be fair, Jank. You said you're a principled man. You're principled, right? So if we do it to one, we've got to do it to everybody. You're the guy that wants money out of politics, so why are you only driving this nail home when it comes to Donald Trump? By all means, if Donald Trump committed a campaign finance violation, hold him accountable. And while you're at it, take every other jackass on Capitol Hill who's had sneaky, dirty money coming into their political campaigns under the table and have been getting bought off and bribed. Take all the people that were connected to these UAE indictments, like Hillary Clinton and her Democratic allies, whomever that may be, because it doesn't mention them by name. That article from the New York Times only said her Democratic allies. You take Hillary Clinton, you take her Democratic allies, you take Donald Trump, and you take the Republicans who are accepting that UAE money as well. Take them all, put them in a nice big ball, RICO trial their ass basically, and get rid of them all that way. I know RICO doesn't apply to politics. I'm using that as a figure of speech. The RICO, you know, where if you can connect them, you can try them as a whole. Do it. Do it. Get rid of them all. Hillary Clinton, she's not in public office. Prosecute her in a regular court for campaign finance violations. All these elected officials, impeach their ass if you really want to take that route. But you cannot say, we only want Donald Trump out of office for the campaign finance violations, when other people are floating around with multiple campaign finance violations and they're actually getting them from a foreign government, which we heard you and everyone else pushing Russiagate. Now, you've come out with your own little version of Russiagate. We heard it on Jimmy Dore's show on Sunday, okay? You've got your own little theory on that. But you and the mainstream media, MSNBC, CNN, we've all been hearing the Russiagate. Russian interference. We don't need interference in our election. You're bitching that he supposedly went to the Ukraine to get interference in the elections. Yet, the UAE, a foreign government, was definitely interfering in the elections, and the money's coming straight from His Highness, Crown Prince MBZ of the UAE. But where are you talking about that, Jank? Why are you not bringing that up? Why don't we hear you gripe and grumble about that? Because if you did, you'd be wanting a lot of those Democrats out of office. Right? Okay. So now, he then goes on to say, oh, well, okay, are we done pretending that Tulsi Gabbard is a progressive? I'm going to take two stances to your whole argument there in just a moment, but continue into what you said. You said that no progressive basically should be defending Donald Trump. Breaking down the root of a progressive. What is the root word of a progressive? Progress. What is progress? Improving upon a situation, building upon that situation, achieving something. You made progress. You went from here to here. That's progress, right? So, in the country right now, we've got a lot of division between people on the right, people on the left, and people who want to be independents because they see some points over here, some points over here, but they still don't align with the corporatism. I'm an independent. And there's so much division going on right now. Even within this Democrat primary, look at what the hell is going on with the Burners and the Tulsi Gabbard supporters. You got these Bernie people out here literally trying to stomp Tulsi supporters into the mud, talking about why she should drop out of this race. Meanwhile, somebody like Elizabeth Warren, who had passed in national polls, according to national polls, Bernie Sanders, she's a far bigger threat to Bernie because she will stab Bernie Sanders in the back if she thinks there's some gain out of lending her delegates at the convention over to a Joe Biden or a Pete Buttigieg. She'll do it quick. Look what she did when she backed Hillary over Bernie the last time around. You think she won't do it again? Okay. Yeah, go on ahead and believe that one. You'll look just as stupid as you did back in 2016 when you thought Hillary was going to win. We'll get to see you have another meltdown. I'll be sure to watch that meltdown again where we're war with the DNC. Are we going to take out these DNC candidates? Of course! Yeah, I'll be real anxious to hear that one again from you, Jank, because it's exactly what's going to happen when all you burner people keep voter shaming Tulsi supporters and you don't say one thing about the wolf in sheep's clothing, Elizabeth Warren. As a matter of fact, I've heard you talk about how Elizabeth Warren is a halfway decent candidate. Oh. Okay. So, progress. Again, back to what I was saying. Progress. Root word of progressive here, right? We've got division in this country. So the progress would be to eliminate that division. That's what I would think. That's what I would think. Instead of a politician idly sitting by and watching all the divisive language from even their supporters and whatnot just continue to flood the field, Bernie Sanders won't defend you. He won't defend anyone else. He won't even defend himself hardly. That's how much backbone the Bernie Sanders of 2019 has. I don't know how much backbone he had years ago, but he certainly seemed to have a different message many years ago than he does today. As far as politics. Back years ago, he was saying what I've been saying, and that is that we need a third party. Now, he's saying, please, DNC, give me a puppy tweet. Please, DNC, there's a nice little belly rub. I'll play by your rules. Please, just love me a little. That's the Bernie Sanders of today. They can literally take a 10-foot pole and shove it up his ass, which they did in 2016, and that man will still go out and stump votes for the person who shoved it up his ass the first place. That is your leader, right? That's someone who's going to stand up when literally the establishment he's railing against sits there and just screws him over, and he doesn't even speak out. He just sits there and kisses their ass, bows down to them, and stumps votes. No, that's not good qualities and what I want as a leader. Period. So she's not a progressive, and her supporters are not progressives. To me, going off the root word of progressive, she's not only pushing for good policy, she's pushing for unity. And Jank, you then went on to say, oh, you shouldn't be trying to appeal to conservative and Republican voters in a Democrat primary because they can't even vote. First and foremost, that's a stupid rule that should be changed. You should be able to vote in any primary. Here in South Carolina, you can be a Republican and go vote in the Democrat primary. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm an independent. But if I were living in New York, I couldn't go vote in the Democrat primary because I'm not registered as a Democrat. That's stupid. That's stupid. Why do you have to register under a political banner to be able to go vote for the candidate that you so choose? Why do you have to do that? That's stupid. That's someone up top rigging elections. Rigging it up so that someone else can't go vote on this side of the aisle if they like a candidate because they're registered on this side of the aisle. That's bullshit. And it should be gone. If you want to go vote, you just should be able to go vote. There should be no, I have to register as this and this and this and this to go vote. Period. Point blank, when the incumbent can't run for re-election and you've got a Republican and a Democrat primary and you've got all that going on, right? I should be able to go vote in each of them if I want to. Maybe I like someone over here and maybe I like someone over here and I want to see them both be the nominee so that I have two good choices and then I can make my mind up when that time comes, right? Because they don't hold the primaries on the same day. The South Carolina Democrat primary didn't happen on the same time the Republican one did last time around, right? So why can't I go vote here and go vote here? See, even in South Carolina, you can only vote in one or the other. You couldn't vote in both. That's dumb. That's dumb. All that crap should be taken away. Okay? So your argument there, Jank, that it's dumb to appeal to those voters, under current law, I will take your point there. I will take your point. But as far as the appealing to them goes, no, Jank. The qualities of a true leader who wants to do right by the country is to appeal to everyone. Now, does that mean you would bend over backwards for people like the David Dukes of the world who came out and endorsed her? Absolutely not. if they're heinous people, you don't just sit there and say, I love you too. There are some people who, if they throw their hat behind you, you should condemn them. But, Jank, there's a lot of blue-collar people who voted for Donald Trump in 2016 that would not vote for Hillary Clinton, that there's no harm whatsoever in Tulsi Gabbard trying to appease to. You know why? Because a lot of them are the backbone of this country. They're the middle-class working people that politicians left behind. Outsourced their jobs, cost them their wages, cost them their benefits, wouldn't give them a good health care plan. They left them behind. They were Democrat voters for years and years and years, old blue-collar Democrats. And after Bill Clinton, they basically gave them two middle fingers and said, good luck. And they abandoned them. Sure, they might have talked a good game, but when the rubber met the road, they were nowhere to be found to help these blue-collar workers anymore. Why? Because they were too busy kissing someone on Wall Street's ass, or somebody in the military-industrial complex, or somebody in Big Pharma. So when Tulsi Gabbard tries to reach out to those voters, that's why people like her and Andrew Yang are pulling Trump supporters. Because a lot of those Trump supporters heard a message out of Donald Trump, whether he was sincere or not. That's not the debate here. Those people went for Donald Trump because they heard a message of hope from him about bringing jobs back, fixing trade policy, and ending these wars that they did not hear out of Hillary Clinton. And while you're saying that no progressive can defend Donald Trump, and he ran on that platform the last time around, I believe that it was your ass that was defending Hillary Clinton. Hillary freaking Clinton. Now, you want to talk about not being a progressive. This woman blatantly admitted she is a corporate centrist. Now, she just said centrist. But she's not the kind of independent like a guy like me is. She's the corporate centrist. She's that one. She's the centrist that actually pushes for old corporate Republican policies. We are talking about an old Goldwater girl here, okay? Someone whose husband heavily deregulated Wall Street. You went out and supported that. You were for Bernie, and because Bernie jumped behind her, any blue will do. Is Hillary Clinton a better choice? Of course! No, she's not. If you were a principled man like you claim to be, you would have voted for Jill Stein. Because that's the closest thing to Bernie that was running in 2016. But no, you go out and become the Hillary train. You're trying to stump votes for Hillary right alongside your beloved ass kisser, Bernie Sanders. Oh, wow. Oh, God. Yeah, that sure is progressive, Jack. Let's just run over a list of Hillary Clinton's policies for a moment, shall we? No-fly zone in Syria, which means we could get into military conflict with the Russians because they were actively flying over Syria. Okay. Free trade deals. You ever heard of those, Jank? You ever heard about how they've wrecked the American jobs and the American economy? The Obama administration and Hillary Clinton wanted to pass the TPP. She called it the gold standard of free trade deals. It was a disaster. Trump whipped her ass on the debate stage when it came to TPP. Now, you could say Donald Trump has implemented the most of it. We're not talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about how progressive was Hillary Clinton, whom you stumped for and defended. You said you can't defend someone that's not a progressive and still be a progressive, right? But you stumped for Hillary, so there's two things, okay? Military conflict. She voted for the war in Iraq. Jank. You remember that one? That's some of that issue that got you in hot water over at MSNBC for coming out against. Bernie Sanders was against. You love Bernie Sanders, right? She voted for it. One of the most important votes she ever took as a United States Senator, she voted for going to frickin' war. And a war that was nothing but bullshit also, because we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction. We destabilized Iraq. We destabilized the Middle East. And she voted for that crap. And then she was behind the conflict in Libya. What did she say? We came, we conquered, and he died, or something like that. And look what happened with Libya. As a result of that, you've got slave trades going on in Libya right now. And she was for that. She was for that. Her and her husband, during the 90s, Bill Clinton, was deregulating Wall Street, letting Wall Street and the corporate elites have more and more and more power to screw over and become more and more wealthy. Repealing Glass-Steagall. That's progressive? My freaking ass, that's progressive. And you defended her. And by the way, since we're talking about foreign election interference here, Jank, Hillary Clinton was the recipient in the first place of that dirty UAE money I just reported on yesterday. It was going to her and her Democratic allies before it went to Donald Trump. So again, the election interference thing here, not holding water, Jank, because you're only holding one guy out of a big crowd responsible. And even if he is guilty and should be prosecuted, you can't just let the others go, especially when you're supposed to be the money out of politics guy. What the hell is that? Do you understand just how bullshit that makes you look when you make that case and you don't want to bring it up about anybody else? It makes you look like a damn hack, Jank. A frickin' hack. I mean, seriously, man, this is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I know somebody's going to watch this video and say, oh, look at this snowflake. He's gotten triggered. No, it's a simple fact that I have an allergic reaction to bullshit. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I'm tired of seeing all these smear tactics against Tulsi Gabbard for taking the principal stance, because we should not be using articles of impeachment as nothing more than a political tool to take someone out of office because they don't like the guy. Here's an idea, Jank. Here's an idea, all you woke Democrats and liberals out there. Put someone up against Trump next November that can beat Donald Trump if you want him out of office. Radical concept, I know. Never heard of, huh? I probably sound like some kook in a nut. Who would think that putting a good candidate up against Donald Trump might actually work, huh? I mean, hey, you're watching this video probably thinking, hey, man, what the hell are you smoking? That's absolutely nuts. Why would we do that? Why don't we just use articles of impeachment as a political hack tool and take him out of office that way? You know, we'll accuse him of something that many other people are guilty of at the same time. We won't say nothing about them. We won't do nothing about them because we only care about Donald Trump. So we're literally going to look like a bunch of double-standarded jackasses. But what the hell? We're going to get Donald Trump out of office. Oh, you forgot one thing. You really expect the Senate to convict? Now, Jank, you said when this whole thing started that the Senate would be doing themselves political suicide, committing political suicide to not vote to convict Trump. Okay. Jank, what was some of the headlines that came out of this impeachment inquiry? Oh, that's right. There were Democrats who left the Democratic Party over this impeachment process. Yeah. And a couple of them even became Republicans over this impeachment process. They completely abandoned the Democrat Party and became Republicans. And the Republicans are committing suicide here. Meanwhile, the Republicans are looking like a bunch of martyrs right now because they've made monkeys and jackasses out of these people that have appeared before Congress. And even some of these law professors they asked to interview. You really thought, I don't even remember that one woman's name, okay? But what are we going to get? Unbiased testimony out of her? So she was some college professor? She's got a history of having a huge chip on her shoulder with Donald Trump. A huge chip on her shoulder with Donald Trump. And so that was unbiased, honest, legal testimony? My ass it was. So when you keep referencing all these people that have testified, Jank, you got one big problem there. It was nothing but partisan BS from the Democrats. The Democrats. Keep in mind, we won't hear from the whistleblower who blew the whistle. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, we need to protect the whistleblower. We need to protect the whistleblower. Okay. That's what we have laws for. That's why there's Secret Service. That's why there's things like that, right? So if this whistleblower can't testify before Congress because safety and all that, then why do they release the names of all these other whistleblowers in the government, like Chelsea Manning and all that, and Edward Snowden? We found out about who blew the whistle on all that, and they released big secrets on the entire government, not just the president, whom one side of the aisle doesn't like. If we can't release the names of whistleblowers, how'd that ever come out? Pure and simple. Because they don't give a rat's ass about safety for whistleblowers. They only use that because it's beneficial to them, and we can never hear that guy's testimony. So we have to keep him safe. We have to keep him safe. We can't release that information. Meanwhile, this whistleblower was supposed to be someone in the intelligence community. Now, who do you think is going to be more protected? Somebody in the intelligence community or someone like Edward Snowden, who worked for the NSA, yes, but certainly wasn't, in the White House. Certainly wasn't that part of government. He was just working at the NSA. Had CIA background, all that, yeah, but he was not to that level in that community, okay? I mean, really? Edward Snowden would be in far more danger for his whistleblowing than this guy would be, just in my opinion. It's just my opinion on things. So, back to your other point, though, that we can't be progressives and defend Donald Trump. Well, I'm not going to be someone who just actively defends Donald Trump no matter what the man does. I'm not going to be that guy. If he's wrong, I'm going to call him out on being wrong. Where I think it's loaded BS, I'm going to call that out as well. This is loaded BS. You can't hold him accountable for it and not hold everyone else accountable for it. It's just simple. For somebody who started a group called Justice Democrats, you know what justice is, Jank? It's where everyone's held to the same standard. I wouldn't call it justice to prosecute one person for crimes and say to the rest, whatever. We hate him a lot more than we hate you, so whatever, we don't care. Especially when that same guy is the money out of politics guy. The hypocrisy there is so thick, you could cut it with a knife. Okay? Huge hypocrisy there, Jank. Huge hypocrisy. And now we get around to why people like myself don't really care to watch your content. Because it's that hacky. Simply that hacky. And quite simply, Jank, if what you're saying is that no progressive can be principled and fair, even when it comes to Donald Trump, that if you do that, that's not progressive. Okay. Then I'm not a progressive. I'm not a progressive. I've said it from day one. I'll say it again. I'm an independent. And I stand up for rights, fairness, and true justice. True justice. The justice that says if we hold you accountable, we hold you accountable. Not, I hate you, so let's charge you, but all the rest of you, well, I don't really like you, but whatever. You're not that big of a deal to me, so we'll just harp on you for political reasons because you made us lose our shit in 2016 on election night because we thought Hillary was going to win. I'll say it again. You can't tell me that people that are defending Tulsi and basically saying that her reason for not playing a massive game with the impeachment process, okay, that's not progressive, but you supporting someone that's a massive hawk like Hillary Clinton, that was progressive? My ass. You know what's progressive about it? One thing you could get out of Hillary Clinton. That's the only thing she could run on. She was a woman. So if she'd gotten elected, we'd have the first female president. Oh, but woman. Hillary Clinton. White woman. Old white woman. Blonde hair. Does she have blue eyes? I can't remember. Unless. Old blonde white woman. I'm pretty sure if we're going to go off stereotypes, that describes most older white women. So you got the progressive aspect of it being a woman in there. But if we're going to talk about all these woke people out there, no, not a woman of color. Oh, but Tulsi Gabbard is. But so is Kamala Harris, and she was a political disaster. She would have been the prosecutor president. So you don't just go after someone just because of their sex and race. Sorry. You go after someone who's got the best policies. And the good news is about Tulsi Gabbard, she does have what a lot of progressives call progressive policies. Oh, and she also fits that whole woke progressive thing about being a woman and a woman of color and, all that good stuff too, right? So she fits all those categories. But she ain't progressive because she's standing on principles even when it comes to somebody like Donald Trump, which is exactly what the founding fathers wanted from our political process, our judicial system, multiple other things. So she's standing more true to founding fathers' principles than you. But you're progressive and she's not. So if you're a progressive, I don't want to be one. Pure and simple. And one other thing that Anna Kasparian went on to make was that, and Jank said he thought she was angling to be Biden's VP. She knows that's not going to happen. So now she's trying to be a part of Trump's cabinet. That's why she met with Trump the last time around. I don't know. I don't know if that's what she's doing or not. I don't think so. I think she's still trying to run the windness. I know people are going to say, oh, she ain't going to have a chance. I've done the video, man. I've done the video. It happened with Kerry back in 2003 and 2004. John Edwards, who was even below Kerry, he came in second at the end of the day. He only had 2% going into the Iowa caucus. He came in second place at the end of it. Now, how does that happen if all of you experts say that polling that low this late in the game is impossible? How did it happen then? How did it happen with Jimmy Carter back in the 70s, huh? See, I haven't heard any explanation out of any of you about how that's possible yet. I've only heard how it's not possible. And yet history has two examples of where it was possible. Okay? So, I'll say this. If she is trying to become part of Trump's cabinet, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. Really. Because we know what's going to happen if Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, or Elizabeth Warren goes up against Donald Trump. Or Tom Steyer. You can throw Tom Steyer on in there too. Okay? Bloomberg, any of them. We know what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to win. He's going to win. They don't have a populist message that resonates with those blue-collar people. That's why a lot of those Trump supporters flock behind Tulsi Gabbard. So, who has that winning strategy? Remember that radical concept I was talking about? The one who could beat Donald Trump is the one who could pull voters away from Donald Trump while still maintaining Democrat support. You're not only getting your base, you're pulling away from theirs. That's how Trump was able to win some of those traditionally blue states last time around. That's how Trump picked off Pennsylvania. That's how Trump picked off Wisconsin. That's how he picked off Michigan. Pure and simple, man. It's not hard to figure out. What happens when Tulsi Gabbard can start picking off some Republican support or independents in the general election? You might see red states go blue. That's what. Blue states will go blue, and there'll be some red states that'll go blue. And you're also increasing the chances of those purple battleground states like Ohio going blue. Doesn't take a genius to figure that one out. But if we put one of those corporate nominees up against Donald Trump, he's going to win. He's going to win. They don't have the message that counters what he ran on the last time around. And after this whole impeachment debacle, it's going to make him look like a martyr at the end of the day. they won't have a chance. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You can point me out and prove me wrong on it when the time comes, but I don't think I'm wrong. You all said Hillary was going to win. Yeah, how well did that work out for you? It didn't. She lost. She lost really badly. Now, I know I'll go, oh, but the popular vote, we don't decide elections on the popular vote. And so you can say that's rigged, or you could just say she was stupid for not focusing her efforts where Donald Trump was focusing his efforts, for not having a message that resonated the way Donald Trump's message did with a lot of people, besides the racists you always want to talk about. How about those working class people that got screwed by the Democrats? He resonated with them in a big way. Because I know a lot of old Democrats that voted Democrat for years, voted for Donald Trump. I know them personally. Okay? So, if she's angling to be a part of Trump's cabinet, guess what? That's a good thing. Because what we have learned about Donald Trump is he seems to be influenced very much by the people around him. Now, every now and then he'll still do his little veto. Thank God he did it to John Bolton about, launching a strike, on Iran or whatever, before John Bolton left the cabinet. But we found that he listens a lot of times to the people around him. Now, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he does. It depends on the person. I would like if Tulsi Gabbard was a part of that, Trump 2.0 administration, because that means that her policies that are good might actually be influencing Donald Trump and pulling him back to push for positions he ran on. That's a good thing, Jank. That's not a bad thing. So even if that's what's going on here is what happens, that's not a bad thing, man. That's a good thing. And so this whole attack on what Tulsi Gabbard did, you be your own judge about it. To me, this comes across as someone taking an actual principled stance that says this is not a game. Impeachment is not a game. We either have clear evidence for impeachment or we don't. And if I vote yes, I'm playing your game. If I vote no, then I'm saying that there's nothing wrong that was possibly done here, and there may have been plenty of wrong done here, but there's other people guilty of the same thing, and you can't really hold them responsible and not hold other people responsible as well. This is doing nothing but causing more divisiveness, because one side's glad, yeah, we're getting rid of Trump, and the other side's going, wait a damn minute. How many of you do this? What did Hillary Clinton do with Ukraine? What did Hillary Clinton do with Christopher Steele and the Russian dossier? But you don't want to talk about that. How about campaign finance violations? Even if they're not aware of this UAE thing, if they were aware of it, well, let's just add some more fuel to that fire for right-wingers to be upset about. Tulsi Gabbard sitting there saying, this is not doing anyone any good. This is nothing but partisan politics game. It's firing up the left to get rid of Trump. It's firing up the right to say, you're all full of crap. You're playing double standard games. You're trying to screw the man that we voted for out of office, so you don't want to recognize an election, and you're afraid you can't win in 2020, so you want to screw this man out of office so that we can't re-elect him next time around. So you're all full of crap. You can't win an election, so you want to bypass our laws by using impeachment that's really murky. And each side has a point. And it's someone like Tulsi Gabbard who actually has a clear set of glasses on, not ones that are red tinted over with rage like yours, who are sitting there saying, this isn't what we should be doing to unify this country. This is not going to do one thing but push us further and further and further into a road of division, and push us further and further closer to one day possibly having a civil war amongst the people in this country, because it is so divided. And meanwhile, people like you and Anna Kasparian are only adding to that fuel, adding to that tension, and causing more and more and more and more problem in this country. So, congratulations. If you succeed, and if all this BS ends up causing conflict in this country, we know who to thank for it when it happens, because of all the smear tactics. And by the way, Isn't it highly ironic that you continue to use smear tactics all because someone doesn't support your political agenda, even though for the last how long since you announced you were running for Congress, you've been the victim of nothing but smear tactics. They've been smearing you. They smeared you so bad that your dear beloved Bernie Sanders, I know you're going to say, oh, Bernie, I said I didn't want the endorsements. I said I didn't want those endorsements. So he's perfectly fine for taking away. Jank, he didn't just retract his endorsement, my dude. He distanced himself from you. No one person is bigger than our movement. That's a clear message of, shoo. Shoo. Go away. You're toxic to my campaign. I liked you, but for political purposes, go take a long walk off a short pier and get away from me. So for someone that was just a victim of that, yeah, dude, you're a freaking hypocrite. And I would think you would have learned a lesson by now. This isn't helping anybody. And you were just the victim of it. So I would think that would kind of send the message across to you. Maybe I shouldn't be doing to others what I don't want to be done to myself. But clearly, Jank, you just don't have that much common sense, do you?